Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today is another LEGO Top 10 MOCs of the Week episode where I show you guys the coolest custom creations I happen to see people building in LEGO throughout this last week. Like always, links to all the creations that I'm talking about are in the description below, plus a whole heck of a lot more. The custom build that went up in the web store this week are the Jurassic Park Jeep and Ford Explorer. Highly recommend that you check out our web store for custom LEGO building instructions if you have not already. And without further ado, let's just jump right in. First build here for the top 10 comes from Marcus Roebler, and it's called Symmetry Workshop. Right here is one of those builds that works perfectly for a camera shot. You have a full interior of what looks like a wizard or mad scientist's lounge or workshop, I should say. But if you couldn't guess by the name, then perhaps you can understand by the photo. This is a perfectly symmetrical build from one side to the next, and the real question to ask is this something that was mirror imaged, or did the designer actually build a perfectly symmetrical thing? Well, when you look really close, it is actually not perfectly symmetrical. The light is ever so slightly different from one end of the table to the next, and technically everything here is just a little bit different. That makes it all the more impressive, especially when you look at, the angles of the sword blades that are sticking out on either side of the rack, or even items that have been turned on their sides are still laid down in the exact same angle. This is one of those models that you look at a lot back and forth, but for kind of a different reason. Because it's cool checking out the details, but it's also cool seeing how incredibly close this guy actually got one half to the other. Anyways, I haven't seen a LEGO build quite like what we're looking at right now. And then the next one in the lineup is from Dog God Brick Design. This is Rock and Roll Dream. There's a lot to unpack here, which is really fun. This is a lion, an anamorphous humanoid lion. It's got the body of a person, head of a lion, and it looks like they're just enjoying a lot of their hobbies all back to back. The lion is listening to music with headphones. They've got a guitar in the back, or maybe a bass, electric bass in the back, not totally sure. They seem to be drawing or painting, sipping on boba tea or something like that. And I think maybe my favorite little aspect of this whole build is the fact that the lion has a nice little lavender purple streak at the top. They're kind of rebellious phase going on. It's definitely a fun detail to add to a really complete looking little model. From Loki 29, this is the Market Vendor, and in reality we just have a future space sci-fi version of a horse and carriage. Looks like this farmer is bringing their goods to market to sell, but everything is in the future. It's a mechanical beast instead of an organic steed, and the carriage is a hovercraft instead of something being pulled in on wooden wheels. The mechanical details are intricate and angular and fun. There's actually a lot of great techniques to make up the hover angles on the side of the cart, and the hooved feet for the trotting beast look incredibly animate and lifelike. And now we are jumping over to Forlorn Empire. This designer built something called the Desert Castle. This really works though to show off the different techniques that are thrown in there. It draws attention to the steps, let's say, in the front. I really like those little arch pieces used to make up the walkway. It kind of reminds me of a Roman aqueduct. Those few ornate larger arch pieces used in the castle really give you an extra bit of detailing. There's some hinges in the back somewhere by some house areas, and the backwards headlights make for nice little windows or doorways for all of these different tower spires. I also appreciate the fact that all the open studs are showing off what looks like the desert floor, and it juxtaposes itself very nicely with the rest of the studless look for the castle. Let's jump on. Now we're looking at another build that is just meant to be taken from a nice close-up single shot from a camera, and it is a very complete scene of a reseeding lab. That is the official title, and it is from the designer Sam Malmberg. Looks like we've got some botanists flying through space somewhere, and this is what a space station garden, I assume, would look like. Lots of plants inside their vials, a larger tree inside a larger vial towards the back, and just some fun sci-fi technical details. There's a lot of attention given to the textures on the white walls when you look closely. There's tubes and pressure gauges, extra computer consoles, crates, and certainly my favorite aspect of this design is the ship far away through the window, and you can also see just the faintest outline of a planet behind that. That's made, I think, just with a single trans blue dish, but it works just well enough to where you can see a bit of the circular shape of the planet, but some of it has faded into the blackness of space, which is a really realistic looking effect. This is just one rock solid scene for sure. And now we're looking at a build, a really wonderful Lego creator scale build from the designer Lego Fisto. We have the Porsche 911, and according to the description, this is an RC car as well. The original Martini Racing Porsche here is done in white with these awesomely colorful stripes that run down the center. It's built to scale with, or be very, very close to scale with the Ford Mustang that came out not too long ago. And the quality for this design feels very much on par. It does look like something that could have come directly from Lego. The angles are incredibly smooth. I especially like that longer slope piece in the back. It's actually on a bit of an angle itself to make the very, very iconic and recognizable shape that we have for the back of a Porsche. And the designer also did this model in light bluish gray, which kind of brings me back to the Aston Martin a little bit, but truly there are just some wonderful shapes and techniques used to fill out this model. From the builder Flavell, we have the robot Cheetah, or Gaitan, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and this is one of those incredibly impressive, not very tall Lego robot models that happens to look great from every angle, despite the fact that there isn't actually a huge amount of space that it's taking up. Just such an incredible, efficient use of pieces. Mostly tiles, some slopes, lots of cheese wedges, but just some wonderful angular designs that have been fit together in an extremely efficient manner, and it ultimately just makes a great looking robot. This is very much in line with some of the other designs that have come from Flavio in the past, and we're jumping on to a model from Ralph Salzburg. We have the Northrop Grumman X-47B UAV. This is indeed a ship that belongs to the United States Navy. It's an unmanned vehicle, and from what I can tell, it is something that has been designed to what feels like minifig scale, though I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot to appreciate about this design. The wings fold up, and the body has been built primarily by stacking bricks on their sides, yet the edges of the front and the wings all have an angular attachment that makes this whole thing feel very, very complicated, yet these smooth angles that make up the body really benefit from this design choice. And you can almost tell immediately based on the shape of this, but it does remind me of a stealth bomber, so my guess is that it probably doesn't show up on radar. It's definitely a cool Lego model. There's some really interesting choices made, especially when it comes to that little lump in the middle of the ship. There's some awesome angles created there towards the front, and it's certainly one of the more fun minifigure scale military designs that I've seen in a long time. It's just different and modern. Now here is a great use for some spherical pieces. I believe that main bit of the cockpit here came from those dinosaur Jurassic World sets from a couple years back. This model is from BrickVault, and the title is Dr. Flavell Crank's Lunar Roamer. Not to be confused with a rover, it doesn't have wheels, but instead two very large mechanical feet with some big toes, tiny phalange-like arms, and what looks like a very, very high level of visibility from the windscreen. The sand green accents are subtle, the mechanical details are everywhere, and the animate shape of this creature-like vehicle certainly seems to have a lot of life to it, even though it's mostly gray and dark gray. I like the use of the cycloptic eye and the top hat for the driver. Dr. Flavell Crank is certainly an eccentric, or at least comes off that way. And then we're in our last build here, and this one's really, really fun, from the designer JapZap. This is the Elephants. I used to have a poster of this particular bit of art from Salvador Dali back in my college days. I had one of those posters, and this is such a cool, weird, surrealistic painting that has been captured wonderfully in Lego bricks. The color gradient also works really well in the back. My guess is that's probably a blue screen or green screen or something in order to have gotten that cutout fade, but it works super well. And the build for this elephant is just weird. It's amorphous. The legs look functional. I think that thing certainly is standing on its own. And my guess is that over time, so many Lego designers start inspiring each other. It's only a matter of time before we start seeing them melting clocks from somebody else later down the line. Certainly one of the more fun, weird, surrealistic Lego builds I've seen in quite a long time. And that is going to be it for the top 10 MOCs of the week. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Remember, if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. I highly recommend you check out those links in the description below. There are many more than just 10 designers featured. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday or whatever day you happen to be watching this video, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.